let's start there. So last week we were talking about one of the most prestigious areas for wine growing, which was Burgundy, and the second, or not in that order necessarily, is Piedmont in Italy. What's interesting about Italy within itself, it actually has the most grape varietals from any other countries. And the grape varietals in Piedmont, maybe not as many, but the region is really known for their red grape varietal and the most prestigious one, which is Nebbiolo. And again, the Nebbiolo from most prestigious areas and a town associated it is Barolo. We are tasting actually one of the Barolos today, which is the third wine we're going to taste, but we will start with the white wine. We can't forget that they also growing delicious white wine, even though red gets all the press. And it is coming from Vieri, winemaker Luca Curado, who's also a very prestigious Barolo producer. And just on the sideline, this winery, Vieri Winery, was the first prestigious winery which Carrie and I visited in the beginning of our Brix career. And we've been very friendly with both Luca Curada as well as his wife for almost 17 years, 16 years. And unfortunately, he still is a winemaker, he's the CEO, but he sold his winery in 2016 to an very rich investment family. So this was very shocking news, but it's very understandable because those people are farmers. When we went there and visited them, they work from day to night, and even if we go out for a beautiful dinner to a gorgeous restaurant, all dressed up, you can't hide the farmer's hand and all the dirt behind the nails. So as much as this was a shock, I think, in the industry that Vieri sold, when you really understand people, what they do, I think at some point they decided to actually have a life. So he's consulting, he's CEO, still the wines are as good as ever. And we actually not gonna taste their famous Barolos, but we're going to taste the Arnais. So I have Emma talk to you about that interesting grape varietal.
Right. So just to touch on what Claudia said already, the Piedmont is in northern Italy. It's at the base of the Alps on one side and then sheltered by the Mediterranean on the other. So it makes it a very unique growing region in the sense that they have this diurnal shift because it's that cold air that blows off the Alps and then the warmth coming from the Mediterranean. So what that does is it's a series of hills, and the fog sort of sets at the valley floor, and where the grapes grow high up on the hillside is bright sun and very, very warm. So anyway, it creates a very, high acid, high toned, amazing terroir for these grapes to grow in. So they do grow about 65% red, 35% white. So we thought it would be interesting to start with the Vieri Arnais, because this particular winery, specifically Luca's father, is really responsible for vinifying Arnais as a monovarietal. So Roero is the town in which it grows around. And Arnais is very akin to Sauvignon Blanc in a lot of ways. So you're going to get similar citrus notes, a little bit of melon, but it's really known for that like dry tannin, almost like almond skin-like texture that it coats your mouth with. It's medium-bodied, crisp. It's perfect to pair with a variety of different things, but also great to enjoy as an aperitif. So the Vieri property has been around. They've been making wine on the property since about the 1800s, but it really wasn't until the 1960s when Luciana Vieri met Alfredo Corrado, they married, and they're Luca's parents, and they basically brought the winery into the modern age where it is now. So Alfredo is a phenomenal winemaker and an art collector and just appreciator of all the finer things in life. They are responsible for vinifying one of the first Barolo Crus. So remember, we touched on this when we were talking about Burgundy. Cru is single vineyard site, and up until this point, it really hadn't been done in the Piedmont, and definitely wasn't distributed outside of their particular region. The monovarietal of Arnase was first vinified in 1967. So it really put the whites on the map for this particular region that is known for its reds, which we'll touch on the two major grape varietals in the next two wines.
And then the cheese that we're pairing with it, it's probably one of the most famous cheeses of Piedmont, which is Ribiola. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, a lot of our unbelievable Ribiolas, and you probably recall from the previous years, the Ribiolas wrapped in, Ribiola and Cavallata wrapped in cabbage, chestnut leaves, leeks, you name it. Unfortunately, they're not coming right now to United States. Smaller. So this is the only Ribiola that is made in Italy that we were able to get and sell, and this is Ribiola Bosina. So it's not going to be that complex. It's a sheep's milk cheese, but again, it's Ribiolas are really known mostly in the Piedmont area. So it's nice to pair something with exactly where wine is coming from. So that's the one that it's a triangle basically of a square Ribiola that has a little bit of lavender, green lavender piece on it. When we move into the Barbera di Alba, we will try a cheese with truffle. We're gonna experiment in a sense, because normally you would pair the hard cheese with truffles, not necessarily a cream cheese, but we already tried the pecorino with truffles with our first tasting, so I didn't want to repeat the cheese. So we'll learn together if you think it goes or it doesn't. What's nice about this triple cream is from Champlain Lake Valley, and it has just a hint of truffle, so it's more of a mushroomy truffle than pungent like we had at our first tasting, because it was with aged cheese, with aged pecorino, so the truffles ages with it, and it's extremely flavorful. And also Alba, as you probably know, is one of the biggest areas to hunt truffles, and it's done by dogs, not like what most people think by pigs. It's mostly done that way because pigs eat truffles and dogs really don't. So the last cheese would be the Parmigiano Reggiano. Unfortunately, our delivery didn't get here till literally 5 p.m. and most of you picked up their own packages. So we did not have the Reserva as I wished. So this particular pecorino is not really aged much, so acidity level will be much higher, and then the quality obviously is not the same. So you just have to come back to the store, buy the wines that you like the most from the today tasting, and pair it with our Reserva that arrived at 5 o'clock. The last one, and that will be paired with the Barolo, which is considered a king of all the Nebbiolo grapes and the king of Piedmont. And then the little surprise, we're gonna have the dessert wine, but beautiful fruit, but considered drier dessert wine. And then we're gonna pair it with dark chocolate. I didn't have time to make a chocolate cake with cherries, so you have to do it on your own. All right, so you can take over, Emma.
Here things. So the first red that we're going to taste is the Elio Grasso Barbera, Vigna Martina. It's named for his mother. It's not a particular vineyard site. And he named it for her because of the dependability of the grape. So the region is really known for Nebbiolo, which is the predominant grape that we're going to taste in the Barolo. But the majority of what they produce in red is actually Barbera d'Alba, and this is what most Piemontese people drink because Barolos are expensive regardless of where you are. And, you know, Barbera is a very forgiving grape. It's extremely versatile, it's laid back, easygoing, really pairs with a variety of different things. And it's really fruit forward and generous and very, very easy to grow. So the Grasso family has been producing wine since for 4 generations now. Gianluca's father, Elio, is really sort of the driving force behind the winery. So back in the day, Elio was doing the vineyard. He was working in the vineyards and in the cellar. Quickly raised Gianluca amongst the vines, and now Gianluca does all of the winemaking. He has a few consultants that work with him, but he really is like a young powerhouse in the region. They're all estate fruit. They're located in an area called Monforte, which is on the southern side of Alba. So just to touch on the 2 different soil types that you find in this region, there's either limestone soil or sandstone soil, and they hold on to moisture in 2 very different ways. So in La Mora, which is where we are right now, and Barolo, you get more of that limestone soil. So it's a little bit of a lighter expression of the grape and really known for that tannin, whereas the sandstone soil that you find in Serralunga d'Alba, Castiglione de Falco, those are a little bit of a richer, more expressive, more generous, I guess, on the aromatics and on the palate, where the others are a little bit more delicate. So this I really like because it has that like dark cherry fruit, a little bit of that licorice component, a little bit of dried herbs. So it is very forgiving and pairs with a lot of different things. I'd actually be curious to know how it pairs with the truffles, because generally speaking, Nebbiolo is what you want to pair because there's like the mushroom component going on. But the Elio Grasso wines across the board, we love absolutely everything that they make. Gianluca's Barolos are a little bit more of a, what I like to describe as more of a modern style. So similar to the Barbera, they're a little bit more fruit forward. They have ageability, absolutely, but they can also be enjoyed in, you know, the first 5-year window as opposed to holding on to it for 10 to 15 years, which is when Nebbiolo really sings and comes out of its shell.
So what do you think? I don't think it's a perfect pairing with the cheese. I think it has more creaminess than truffles, and I'm sure they're not putting, you know, Italian or French truffles. It's probably Oregon truffles. But the mushroominess of it, the flavor, definitely pairs well with the red wine for sure. I just wish that there was less acidity in a cheese. But again, if you don't try, if you don't, you know, experiment, you never learn.
Have any questions at all at this point? Okay, we can move on to the next wine. People are ready.
And then another thing, because I just saw some people just opening the bottles. So for example, something like the, you know, Barolo that we're gonna taste, those wines would really benefit from breeding. So it's nice to try them when you first open, for sure, but definitely go back to it and retaste both of the reds. It's tremendous difference.
Give us a minute to taste the red. We've just finished the white.
Absolutely, take your time.
And we are enjoying the cheese as well.
You bet.
Okay. But anybody else has any questions so far? I thought it would be more intimate group. There would be more questions, but I guess not.
Have people had wines from the Piedmont before?
Yes.
Yeah, the next one that we're going to try, not only that it's Barolo, but it's extremely affordable Barolo. And also it's from a female winemaker, which we always like. We're not going to carry female winemakers just because, but if any time that we can support female-run winery or female winemaker, we will definitely try. And this over delivers for the money. And again, she's really young, which we, again, that's kind of taking a whole circle back from where we started. We started our tasting with female winemakers, young female winemakers that are taking over in Italy. So we were not talking about Barolo from the Vajra, but I believe we had, do you recall, Emma, did we have one of the Vajra wines or no?
We had a Vajra Rosso, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah. With the pretty flat. That wine.
Could I ask you a
course.
question? How long would you hold on to a Barbera, and in terms of aging it? And tell me a little about the Barbera food chain in terms of what's a how do you think about that?
I mean, Barberas generally, so to answer your first question, I mean, they can age, absolutely. I would say probably 15 years at maximum, but really singing between 5 to 10. But the whole point of Barbera is that you don't have to age it. You can just pop it and pour it now, and it's just as enjoyable now as it will be down the line. I mean, it will be a different wine, like we've touched on before in these tastings. The longer you let wine sit, it evolves in the bottle. And sometimes that's a good thing, and that's what you're aiming towards. And other times you want to enjoy it when it's fresh and young. It also has to do with your personal preferences. I mean, do you like a higher tone acid? Do you like that tannin presence? Then you want to enjoy it at a younger age, because as it lays in bottle, those things start to soften, and then it becomes less fruit forward, more earthy, a little bit softer, and then the color will change. For the second question, Barberas generally don't get very expensive. I mean, I think I would be surprised. It probably caps at like 40 to 50, but even then, you know, that's not very expensive for the region.
Just to continue with what Emma said, these are the given brackets from when the Barbera can live, so to speak of. But over drinking over the years, I find that me personally, I prefer it when they're young. I don't do it past 2 years myself, because the freshness does, again, depends on the preference, and also depends on the producer. If this is a really known Barolo producer, which Ilio Grasso is, then his wines would last a little bit longer than somebody else's Barbera. Also, it's Barbera de Alba, which comes from Alba, town of Alba, in the area of Alba. But I definitely think that younger is better for that particular grape varietal, for sure. And this was a very good explanation that Emma did on the personal preference, because even something like Burgundy, maybe not Barolos that much, but Burgundies, let's say Wine Spectator or somebody very notable would say, oh, this is the peak for this Burgundy, meaning you should enjoy it at this particular year, that's the best. For me, whatever those sources say, it's always too late, because I don't like when there is no symphony of flavors, that there is not a front, middle, and back palate, that the acidity doesn't play harmony with the fruit, where especially Pinot Noir, when it ages for a long time, then all this acidity mellows out, just like Emma said. But for me, it's so evident in Burgundies that I definitely drink Burgundies much sooner than probably most people. So you will find your preference. It's no different than eating banana. Some people like it almost green, some people in the middle, and some people when it has dark spots, and some people when it's totally ripe. And it's a very different banana, but it doesn't mean that it's bad or spoiled. It's just like a different
Preference, yeah. The wine speak for the evolution in bottle is primary aromas and flavors. So you're thinking fresh fruit, fresh cut grass, fresh herbs, fresh. And then it moves into tertiary aromas and flavors. And that's when you get that earthy component where it smells like dried leaves, tobacco, leather, all of those components. And there's a personal preference on either side of it. I agree with Claudia. I personally don't like old wine. I would rather drink things a little bit younger because it is, to me, it's more interesting, but everybody's palate is different too. So the best way to do it is not to really follow the reviews necessarily, but experiment and trust your own palate and determine what you like on your own.
Yeah, especially if the wines, you know, if you don't want to invest a lot in wines, what you do is maybe don't buy a case of wine, but the wines that you really like, you know, get a 6 bottles and open it the day you try it, you like the wine, and then open another bottle, again, depending on the grape varietal, maybe in a 6 months, maybe in a year, and then open it in a year and a half, and a 2 and a 3, and then maybe leave one for shits and giggles, you know, for, you know, 7 years. And then you see, and then you learn, and you'll never do this again. All right, so are we ready to move into Barolo?
The Barbera is quite nice, I think.
It is, yeah. We love that producer. They make amazing wines.
So what is the fundamental difference between a Barbera and a Barolo? Is it just geography, or is it a different grape?
So Barbera is the grape. In this particular instance, it's the grape. It generally doesn't have a village designation on it. Every now and then it does, but it usually just leads with the Barbera. Barolo is the place. That's the town. In order to be Barolo, it has to be 100% Nebbiolo. So we can talk about Nebbiolo in general. So we touched on this a little bit already. It's the predominant varietal that people know coming out of the Piedmont. Not what they grow the most of, but it's the calling card for the region. There are so there's 3 iterations. Three main.
With or without food, it's good.
There's Nebbiolo, so you'll see Longue Nebbiolo on the label. That means it comes from the Longue region, which is the greater region of the Piedmont. It's just a different name for it. And then there's 2 very specific focused expressions of the grape. There is Barbaresco and Barolo. They are known as sort of like the feminine and masculine expressions of the grape. Barbaresco is an area where there is less of a diurnal shift. So the wines are a little bit more delicate. They ripen sooner, thin skins, less tannin, more fruit forward, more easily accessible at a younger age. Barolos are really like the king of the region. And that's where you're finding Nebbiolo is known for its tannin. The second you taste that wine, you are going to feel it on the front of your palate, and that's what the tannin is. It grips all the way back, but it really is concentrated on the front of your tongue. So we love the Vira family. They are dear friends of ours. They have been producing wine in this region since the 1880s, but it was Aldo Vira that really was the driving force behind establishing this winery. So in 1968, at the age of 15, he said, I want to make my own wine and establish my own winery. So they had just been a cantina up until this point, but they decided to purchase vineyards. And everything that they've done since then has been amazing. They're certified organic. They practice biodynamics. They are really in tune with how the soil has changed over time, how the weather has changed over time, and really sort of ahead of the curve and forward thinking with those things. They're located in some of the highest elevation vineyards in all of the Piedmont. So this really is all about finesse and complexity over power. So you have a very traditional style of Barolo, which is like Pio Cesare is a great example. That's a marker of the region. It's very aggressive, really dark fruits, lots of tannin, lots of structure. That's a situation where I would lay that wine down for 5 years because it's a little tightly wound. It needs to relax, simply put. Whereas the Vira wines are so unbelievably accessible in their use. So we thought this would be a fun one to try. It is very reasonable in the spectrum of Barolo in terms of price point. And what I like about it too is the Albi. Albi is the name of the wine. The fruit is sourced from 3 different vineyard sites, again, all high elevation, but it is an homage to the more traditional expression of Nebbiolo in the Barolo region. So this is one of the richer expressions that the Vira family puts out, but you're still getting those high-toned, really fresh red fruits. Like I think of like fresh cranberry, freshly picked raspberry. It's very floral, so there's lots of rose and violet, and a little bit of like a fig compote and that earthy component. You should be able to kind of taste the mushroom with this, so you should try the truffle cheese with this as well and see how that pairing is a little bit different. So it's 3 siblings that run the property now, even though their parents are still there, and Francesca Vira is the young, hot female winemaker who also in non-pandemic times travels the world and really seems to do it all by herself. And she is a gem. She's beautiful, friendly. Her English is amazing. They're really wonderful at representing the winery across the world.
We are. So may I ask the stupid question of the day?
There's no stupid question.
Isn't it at all, Barolo and Brunello. And I just thought perhaps you could give me, and I like young and aged, but a compare and contrast the two,
So first of all, different grape varietals,
right?
totally different area.
Right, I'm assuming that, right?
Okay, so Barolo is in Piedmont, which is northern part of Italy, where Brunello de Montalcino comes from Tuscany, and it really actually from the southern Tuscany. So you're really kind of going south without going to the total end of the booth or the islands. They single grape varietals. So Barolo is 100% Nebbiolo, where Brunello de Montalcino is 100% Sangiovese. And Nebbiolo is compared more to Pinot Noir grape in a certain, maybe not texture, but definitely sensibility, where I personally think Brunello de Montalcino is it's much richer, a little bit less finesse. It's bold, but it's in a very different way bold than Barolo. That would be more, if somebody drinks, for example, it's a domestic red wine drinker, like a Cabernet Sauvignon, really well-made Cabernet Sauvignon, and they wanted to experience different country, the easiest transition from Cabernet Sauvignon, in my opinion, would be the Brunello de Montalcino, because it offers the fullness of the mouth. It offers this full body that people drinking well-made Cabernet are used to. It has also oak. It's muscular. And as I said, Barolo is also called being muscular, especially if you compare it, to different Nebbiolo grapes, but just especially from Barolo. But it's a very different, it's kind of mature in sophistication in a sense, where the Brunello de Montalcino is just powerful. Well made, obviously, but powerful. We actually had Rosso de Montalcino from a very good Brunello de Montalcino producer in our first tasting. It was Donatella Colombini, kind of purplish label. And her Brunello de Montalcino is absolutely excellent. We carry it in all stores. That's one of those women again. We carry in all our stores and extremely affordable for such a quality Brunello de Montalcino. So you should try it. It's when you come in, I'll point it out to you. It's like $80 for really, really good Brunello de Montalcino, where this is kind of where they start and go up. Climate, I mean, obviously all of that is more of a flavor profile, but like everything else, because where they are located, the soil, the climate, influence the wine because influence the grapes. So does this answer your question?
Yeah, it's like fruit versus texture. What are you in the mood for? The fruit would be the Brunello, the texture would be the Nebbiolo.
No, I think all of your descriptions were very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm more like you than like Carrie and Emma. So my knowledge of where the wind blows when the shine is very limited. But I think I associate myself with, average client that does not have that very precise knowledge of a soil or the winds or the mountains. It's really, in the end of the day, would I like it if I usually drink that, if I want to experiment, and would it go with what I'm cooking? And also, I'm not on the floor. This is not what I concentrate on. So I rely on the knowledge of my business partner, Carrie, and Emma,
Which
which
one?
obviously shines
Okay.
here.
You want some?
Let me finish this. It's high pressure drinking.
So what did we think? The truffles go with everything, huh?
Where's that truffle cheese come from? Is that from Lake Champlain, did you
Yeah,
say?
it is. Yeah. I think it's very
Oh, New York chocolate cheese, the one we finished already?
I think it's this one.
Is it Vermont or New York?
That's actually- These have been sort of pushed
Yeah.
together.
We haven't
What I
tasted yours,
really like,
so we check it.
what I
some
like about it, that the cheese
Oh,
is small. You're getting you got half of the cheese. So I like about it. It's rich. So it's nice to have, but you really couldn't consume, much more than half, I think. Though I do know friends of mine that could. He's kind of a creamy Brillat Savarin or triple cream guy. So yeah, he could eat it all. So what did you think about the selection to have something totally different and finish up with a little dessert wine? Well, I guess you try it and then you let me know, right? And it's easy. You can just screw it, which I'm going to do right now. I got to just get another glass.
Which one was the female winemaker, the Barolo or the Barbera?
The Barolo.
The Barolo, okay.
Her name's Francesca.
Are either of them organic or not?
Yeah, they're certified. So the Barolo is certified organic, yes.
The Barolo is, okay.
They're all practicing, but the certification is exorbitantly expensive. So
Right. So yeah, it's like all practicing. I don't know if you've heard this. So all the wines are really organic. It's just they don't have certification. A lot of French or Italian would not certify it because it's extremely expensive. And again, these are farmers. These are not the business people that went to Napa Valley and purchased the vineyards and, are not farmers. They just have money and they want to own a vineyard. Where in France and Italy, it's really the farmers, the families. Obviously, there are exceptions of the rules, but in majority, that's who owns the vineyards and harvest the grapes and the winemakers. And usually, they're marketers. They travel, they sell, they do everything.
the vines are very interesting too, because the Barolo producer, they've been certified organic since the 70s, which is like, doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And that's
Not too strong.
But the children were thinking, like Aldo was really thinking about the trajectory of the region across the world and what he could do with those wines and putting his homeland on the map. And he was very integral in all of that happening. So we thought the Brichetto would be a lot of fun. We haven't done a dessert wine yet. Dessert wines are not always something that we can gravitate towards.
No, this is which one are you opening? It's a screw top. Screw top.
It's like stories where you saw it.
Yeah. You don't need, okay. You don't need a knife. You can just unscrew it.
Peter?
Good luck for me. It worked this time.
Are we gonna have the dessert wine now?
So the only thing that I hope
We'll start with
that,
dessert and then eat dinner.
let me ask you this. I want to, like, I hope that the girls mentioned that that dessert wine should be chilled.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Ah, what a team.
Oh, look at that color. I love that wine.
I know, it's gorgeous.
It kind of sounds like a broken record. These people, they've been producing, the Marenko family has been in the Piedmont producing wine for 100 years. I love that it's run by 3 women now. So another female run property. It's 3 sisters. They're in Monferrato, so a little bit of that richer soil type, more of that sandstone, like what we were talking about earlier. So a higher concentration of fruit in these grapes, which is perfect for the Bricchetto, which is the grape that is in the dessert wine. So it's grown specifically and only for the sweet level. So it's got a kiss of sweetness. It's like a little bit of an, almost like an off dry style, because there are a lot of vegetable, that like juicy red fruit is beautiful. And I love the vinification of a little bit of the spritz in the bottle. Just makes it very, very refreshing at the end of a decadent meal, and makes it a perfect pairing for the chocolate. Because a lot of times, like I think in popular culture, red wine and chocolate, people think they go together, but they very often do not actually go together. They work in opposition with each other. So when you want to pair something with chocolate, it really needs to have that residual sugar, like what you're enjoying in the Bricchetto. The Acqui has been a wine producing region since the Roman times, and Bricchetto has been growing in this place since then. The vineyards are southeast facing, so they are really just baked with sun. But at that same time, you have that cool air coming off of the Alps, which really preserves that acidity. And so it's not a viscous, rich dessert wine like a Sauterne or a Tokai. It's not something that clings to your mouth. It is very palate cleansing. And it really has to do with the weather that they have there.
What do you think?
It's fun.
I don't think, like, all right, we're on mute. So what do you think? Did you like it?
Yes. Good question. Is there sugar added to this? It is so very, very sweet.
No, these are all quality.
keep
which
muting
means
us.
they were not going to add sugar to it.
Keep things speeding up.
The only wines that you will ever buy at Brix that have sugar added to them are champagne. Most champagnes do. Otherwise, it's
It needs to be really cold. It needs to be really, really cold, just like champagne would be. And it's really meant to be, you know, enjoyed with a chocolate dessert and just a little bit. No different that you would have Amaro or Digestivo. You don't drink glasses of it. You just have a little bit to kind of cleanse your palate after, especially after a rich meal or a rich triple cream meal.
You could use some Fernet Branca to try.
And you said which champagnes that have sugar added? Is that what you said?
So all champagnes have sugar in it. It's called dosage. So we should do a champagne.
Oh, we should do sparkling wine and champagne tasting.
So the bubbles, I mean, I could go off in a million different directions, but for champagne, the bubbles exist because of the secondary fermentation that happens in the bottle. And that happens when they add extra sugar. So the first fermentation happens in tank, they put it in the bottle, you sort of let that age for a little while, then they freeze it because they want to freeze the sediment, and they cut the sediment off, put a little bit of what they call still wine with added sugar, a little bit of yeast, put that into the bottle and then cork it, and then that's where the bubbles come from. So the secondary fermentation. I mean, I don't know of a single champagne producer that doesn't add sugar because you have to. They come in all different levels of sweetness. So like Brut Nature is the least amount of sugar added. It's like, 0.05 parts per million. And then they go up from there. And then there's the Brut, the Demi-Sec, and then, all of the, and then just the different levels of sweetness that continue from there. But all champagne has sugar in it. It has to, otherwise it doesn't exist.
The fermentation reminds me, or makes me think of
That's what you-
fermentation that my bread maker here has been doing for months.
Totally.
The same thing, bubbles, the
Like
bubbles,
every
the whole thing.
other
The difference in
millennial.
that is coming from the yeast.
Yeast
It's just
is
natural.
delicious. The smell's different, but it's same idea.
No, actually, some champagnes will just smell like the starter for the bread that she's making.
Oh,
Right.
Look into that one.
So like a lot of the champagne tasting note is because that's a sweet white bread that comes right through. That's the yeast.
interesting.
All right, so your next visit at Bricks, we're gonna try the bread that you're making.
Yeah,
Deal.
she might have it tomorrow.
I have
Great.
one's in the oven right now.
So how many
Yeah,
how many times you made it so far? Whole summer?
a lot since like March, I think.
Right. Yeah, because if you have the starter, you just can keep going. Yeah.
Right. I mean, really, you have to, or else you have a lot of extra.
Yeah.
stuff.
We
Which I
have,
also have.
we have extra starter if you'd like her to drop some off tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Between like doing the marketing in the morning and then being on the floor for 8 hours. Yep, I'm definitely doing bread this summer.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna rely on you.
I will drop a ready-made loaf.
Excellent. Now we talk.
That's required.
So I know that you always ask about pricing. So the Arnaise is $26.99. The Barbera is $35.99. The Barolo is $45.99. This must be the least expensive.
yeah.
But the matrix of the price, the least expensive best Barolo I ever tried in my life, because they really just start at $50, and then you really have to kiss a lot of frogs to get Barolo that is superb for the price. And then the half a bottle of Brocchetto is $14.99. And again, we in Boston carry full bottles, but I almost think that all you need is a half a bottle. And because it has some sugar, not added, but residual sugar, then it will, you can put it in the refrigerator, it will last for a few good days. You don't have to feel like, and so is the Barolo. If you cork it and put it in the refrigerator, and you should do this with every red wine. If you have leftover red wine, you should cork it as soon as you know that you're not going to drink anymore, so it doesn't oxidize, and then you put it in the refrigerator so it preserves instead of aging quickly because it's open.
So here's the second stupid question of the day. Do you ship?
It's illegal for us to ship.
Oh, it is.
Where are
That's
you from? Where are you from?
Not in Pennsylvania, not Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, I would know that, especially in Pennsylvania, you would want it to have a better selection. It's state run, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's getting better, but it's not
Did
good.
you drive here or did you take a plane?
Drive. We drove.
There
We
you go.
often
Your
we
answer.
often
Just
drive,
back
but
up.
we do drive. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Okay,
stop.
so-
Bye.
You
Right.
can stop in Boston and fill your trunk with wine. You don't even have to buy it in Nantucket. You can just go to see Emma in Financial District.
You're right.
Okay, I have a question. Is the
Yeah.
dessert wine good with,
With what?
is the dessert wine good with all desserts or specifically chocolate?
No, that there are different dessert wines. There are better pairings for different things. For example, like a pear-based liqueur would be good with like tarte tatin, for example, any fruit-driven. This really would be just good with anything that has chocolate.
Okay, great, thank you.
And really preferably like semi-sweet or dark chocolate.
That is great chocolate, by the way.
Excuse me? Great chocolate, isn't it?
Yes.
It's from Piedmont. I grew up on this chocolate. It's the same company. They made it before the war, during communists, and they still make it. and they just put this absolutely
Hold on.
fantastic package.
And
And
we
they
have
make
Lauren.
remarkable milk chocolate with whole hazelnuts, studded with hazelnuts. It's just
Okay.
dark chocolate pairs better with this particular dessert wine.
And do you sell it at the shop?
Yes, we do sell it.
What do we ask for other than chocolate?
We only sell Pollard chocolate, so there you have it.
What kind of chocolate?
It's front and center.
Front and center?
What percent cacao is it?
64%.
Okay.
64.
That's why
I may have missed your answer before, but the dessert wine, once it's opened, how long will it last? And in general, same thing with champagne. Once it's open, how long will it last?
so you open it, which means you release the bubbles.
Mhm.
So if you have very good stopper, it would retain whatever it is that you left there. So, if you let it, if you just off that stopper, it would last for 2 days with the probably same amount of bubbles. Again, the same amount of bubbles that was left after you open.
2 days.
Yes, 2-3 days. Yep. For quality
Every
champagne.
the bubbles disappear a little bit more, so.
Because you now have,
Thank you.
exposed, depending how much you left in the bottle too. So if it's just you, there is less space. If it's 2 people, there is more space. But let me put it this way. Good champagne, I have no problem drinking it next day. If you use the right stopper. And it has to be champagne stopper. It cannot be still wine stopper, because that's not going to preserve the bubbles. That's actually, I'm going to make a note for us to get them on Nantucket.
Okay.
Champagne
And those
stopper.
those are stoppers that take the air out?
No, they
No,
hold
I
all
actually
the
don't
bubbles
do that.
in. Hold the pressure.
They don't do that? Okay.
I don't know why. A lot of people do pump the air out.
Okay.
Don't
I
do
don't
that.
have good explanation. I just don't like the whole idea of pumping the
They
air
do
out.
it, it's most common in restaurant service, but it's not a good idea.
I can actually taste it.
I may have answered that.
Good wine, again, and especially like Barolo, it's as good, again, in a refrigerator. You gotta put it in a refrigerator. But the good producers, Barolo, for example, or Brunello's, same with really good white Burgundies, richer, ageable wines, sometimes they actually better the next day than the first day that you open them, because they had time to breathe.
Like Coco Van.
Like Coco Van.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Like certain things need to, food-wise, they need to macerate to get all the flavors. And certain food, like, that have onion in it, for example, you do not want it to. So, and then the same with wine. The really big, well-produced wine. So, don't be afraid to spend more money because you want to, but you said, oh, we're not going to finish the bottle, so I don't want to spend that much money. No, if it's a really, really good bottle of wine, especially of Barolo or Brunello, then go ahead. Just think about it, that it's half of that, because you're going to drink another half the next day. I mean, I can't even tell you how many, like Vieri, especially Vieri Barolos, how many Vieri Barolos or Gaia I had, and it was better next day.
And what you should do is put a good stopper in it, but don't pump it out, and put it in the refrigerator overnight?
Yes.
Okay.
You never put it in.
You'll get like 4 to 5 days out of a red after it's open in the refrigerator. Whites and rosés a little bit less, like more like 3 to 4.
That's interesting. We get a couple of weeks on white sometimes. But that may be our taste.
No hard and fast rules with any of this. With any of the grapes, any of the
Right.
winemaking facility,
Red's
they're
about
really,
2 hours.
it's all about experimentation.
Yeah,
And
and also, you know,
sometimes it's
we-
very interesting to the second way without the bubbles in it, because you can actually taste the fruit, especially to a palate that's like not, you know, not very seasoned. It's hard to get past that. The mousse is what they call the bubbles. It's hard to get past that texture to actually taste what the still wine tastes like. But when they're making champagne, they're tasting the still wine. They're not tasting it with the bubbles. They can't do that. Then they can't sell the bottle of wine. So it's all about the marker of that fruit. So it's an interesting experiment. Even if you have like a little splash left, throw it in your refrigerator and then age
Put
it
it on
the
your
next
hair to give your hair bubbles.
yeah, for example, a very good example of that is Krug champagne.
Chocolate mousse, it's something.
I love Krug. I mean, I love other champagnes, but I love Krug because I call it still wine with bubbles opposed to just champagne with bubbles, because it is very, very lightly effervescent. And I kind of like that once in a while. And yeah, once in a while, because not that I can like afford Krug bottle of wine every week. But it's very interesting because
KRUG.
No, CRU. CRU, I think.
all right, so any
But
other
Krug
questions
Village.
before we say good night?
Doug, what did you just describe? The wine, the lightly
Champagne.
effervescent wine that you like?
Well, it's actual champagne. It's called Krug,
Spelled how?
but the level of bubbles is very delicate.
Okay. Is that
It's-
KRUG?
Correct.
KRUG. It's one of the most prestigious houses, right there with the Roder Cristal and the Dom Perignon. Or Paul Roger, for that matter.
It's not to be confused with the Krug in California. There's a producer in California called Charles Krug. It's not the same thing. No relation whatsoever. So
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Claudia and Emma, I have participated in 3 of the 4 tastings this summer thus far, and I have so enjoyed them. You have no idea. And I love your shop. And my daughter, who's participated in 2 of them, it's really been a wonderful experience for her and for us together too.
Well, love to have you, and thank you very much for those compliments. That's what drives us, is to educate people and enjoy it without all the fuss. So thank you very much. So are we?
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank
Thank
you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Sarah, are we planning to do one more, or are we planning to do them, continue to do them till people want to do them? What's your plan?
We should do one more.
Okay.
Why not?
That's a vote.
Do you
Why wouldn't we?
all like
Sarah,
sparkling
you're on mute.
Do you all like sparkling wines and champagnes? Would you
Yes.
like to do
I
what
do.
Emma suggested?
I may not be an island, so you have to get some other very happy, appreciative people. But I'll try.
Well, you can take it with you. We can pack it for you.
Yeah, we can
So,
do another one. Just talk it up and get your friends to sign up, and then it'll be successful and we can do it.
Right.
Sounds like fun.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was
Thank you.
great.
Propose
Okay.
to